a playlist original.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Live or die. Make your choice.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know. And they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
They're here.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
He stops. The terror starts.
I swear I didn't kill those people. I got sprayed by this guy who picked up hitchhiking.
You believe me?
The Hitcher. Rated R. Starts Friday, February 21st in a theater near you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. Haven't done this in a while. Been a minute since I've introed an episode, but glad to be back with you guys today. If you guys have already heard our episode on Creep, then you'll know this is the second of 2 episodes I was able to sneak in just at the tail end of September. Hopping in here for spooky season and Tales of Horror with Gaius. So nice to be doing our second episode today, my man. And today we're talking about The Hitcher from 1986, the OG. I know you've seen both. You've seen the 2006 remake, is that right?
2007.
2007, right. This is my first time watching this. I know that you'd seen this quite a few times before, and this had me feeling some type of way after seeing it. I know it's no secret. I've talked about my love for the 80s on this show many times. This is one that's kind of eluded me over the years. I know I told you off camera it had been in my watch list for some time, and I kept kind of forgetting about it. But finally got the chance to see it after you put it on our list of Tales of Horror options. Man, I loved this movie. I'm interested to see, though, what you feel about it after seeing it multiple times over the years, because I really wish I'd seen this when I was younger so that I could be appreciating it more now. But just seeing it at 26, like, this is a movie I know I would have loved from the get-go, and I loved after seeing it, and it just had me craving the 80s after seeing it. But what was your experience like? When did you first see it?
So I, oddly enough, saw it right before the remake came out. So I had heard about it. I heard about it a lot. I just never got around to watching it. And I saw they were remaking it, and I was like, oh, I should probably check the original before going to see the remake. So that's why I saw the remake soon after. Which is why the remake is not as good in comparison. Like when you see like this, the original right before that, the differences are pretty like jarring in quality. Like I mentioned offline that like Sean Bean is good in the role that Rutger Hauer plays in the original, but he's not. Rutger Hauer is doing
he is so awesome in this.
Truly menacing things in this movie. And it's not that Sophia Bush is a bad actress. It's just this doesn't have the same, like, it's not as like character driven as this is. There's even though like the Hitcher remake didn't have a huge budget, there's more like action set pieces in it.
It was like a borderline action movie is what I was thinking halfway through. There are some great car stunts. There's some great like pyrotechnic stunts in this movie. A lot of vehicle muckage. Like, it is like an action horror.
Yeah. And I will say, like, with the original when I first saw it, and I still feel this way after watching it again, is that you don't get a ton of backstory about either person, our protagonist or antagonist, but it is this really interesting character push and pull between the two of them as they're, on this little twisted journey that begins with C. Thomas Howell's character Jim picking up the hitchhiker at the start of the movie. And I know some critics at the time and even some critics now, even though like I said, it got mixed reviews when it came out. It's been reappraised over the years as like a cult classic for sure. But some of the issues from some critics is that we don't know enough about, particularly the Hitcher in the movie. This is just someone who's crazy and deranged, and that's all we really know about him.
Yeah, what more do you want? I love the ambiguity. That really works for me.
I thought it worked,
I don't think you need to know anything.
Because in that situation, if you're in Jim's situation, you wouldn't know anything about the guy either. Other than
what does it matter what he does for work or how many people he's been killing, if any at all? Like, this is just a force that Jim's got to contend with while he's delivering a car on a secluded California highway, and that is just a bulletproof premise for this movie. And like, there's very little in the way of help for Jim. It's really up to his own cunning and his own resourcefulness to get himself through his dealings with the Hitcher. And I thought it was great. I love the idea of this. Even the poster of this movie, it really evokes like Goosebumps, the series.
Yeah, a little bit.
The poster looks like it's a Goosebumps cover. Like, I loved it from the first time I saw it. C. Thomas Howell, I only know from The Outsiders, but like that movie has such a special place in my heart. Like that, like just to see him. I don't know any of his other theatrical roles, so to see
he's in
this.
E.T. Have you seen E.T.?
I've not seen E.T. I'm a little ashamed to admit. I know it's a weird one.
He's not like he's not one of the leads, but he's one of the older brother's friends that towards the climax of the movie that helps stage like the escape to get Elliot and E.T. like to where they need to go, so E.T. can go home. Like, he is one of the kids that gets to like fly off on the bikes, which is cool.
Neat.
So he was in a lot of stuff in the 80s. He was in like Red Dawn, like you mentioned, The Outsiders.
Oh, he was in Red Dawn too? Damn.
Yeah. And then recently he was in, not recently, it's older still, but he was in The Amazing Spider-Man. He was in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie. Not a huge role, but like he was in that as well. But yeah, he was a pretty big thing and decently big thing in the 80s. And then like this has become, even though he's done a lot of movies, this has become sadly for the late Rutger Hauer, this was a signature role for him for a really long time. Like, a lot of people constantly cite this movie as like one of his best performances, or like what they know him from. Even though this movie didn't make a lot of money when it came out, it only made like $5.8 million on a $7.9 million budget.
Oh boy. And it got critically panned. It's still got a 32 Metascore all these years later, which I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous when I saw that.
Oh, you're like, ooh.
But I knew after the first act, or the first like extended scene had gone on, I was like, this is for me. This is exactly what I want out of this movie. Once he gets the Hitcher out of his car, like that whole exchange when he first picks him up and he holds a knife to his eye, and do you know what happens when a blade punctures an eyeball? Oh my God, that was awesome.
And then he tells him, like, he wants you to say, like, was it 4 words? Like, I want to die. Like,
That whole scene is amazing.
Yeah, Rutger Hauer plays John Ryder, which is like a great name for that
very
right?
80s.
It's interesting too, because apparently other people mentioned for the part where David Bowie, Sting, Sam Shepard, Harry Dean Stanton, and Terrence Stamp. Michael Ironside was also considered for the role too, but ended up going to
awesome.
Ended up going to Rutger Hauer. I can't see anyone else playing the part. It's so like he's so creepy. And like what I appreciate about the movie when I first saw it, and every time I watch it, it gets right to it. there's not like a whole lot of setup.
Nope.
Like, he legit, it starts with him driving down like a highway and then picking him up, and it's not soon. It's soon after that the situation is like, this is not going to be good. I think the only decent exchange that they kind of have is like getting each other's names. And then after that, it's like, like I think one of the next questions he asks him is like, where are you headed? And he doesn't really like give an answer. And from there, it's just like completely bonkers. You can tell the guy's like not right. And he does little subtle things that like kind of show that. I love that moment where they're like driving and they're passing by the one car that's like on the side of the road, and you know, of course we know like eventually that that's someone that he's probably dealt with already, and that's what he doesn't want him to see. And he just grips his legs, so like he like just like will drive faster. He's like, "What the hell did you do that for?" And he's still kind of doesn't explain to him, but then he kind of like laughs it off. Is like, "Oh well, no, that was my car. And, you know, it broke down." And so you need a gas station? He's like, "Yeah." and then when he mentions the gas station again, he's just like, "Oh, like he's like, what do you say? Like gas stations have cigarettes?" And he's like, "Oh, like you don't need gas." And, yeah, I don't need gas. And he's like, now it's back to this whole like situation where clearly this guy is messed up. And then when he just like matter of factly tells him what he did to the other people in the car, like, I'm going to kill you. Same way. Yeah. And it's just like, and I love that from there. I mean, of course, there are moments where it slows down a bit, but from there, it just kind of almost never lets up, really.
No, it really doesn't. And it does so in a way I really didn't expect. I expected that when he picked them up, they were going to be in the car together for the rest of the show. It was just going to be them, like the Hitcher, like getting him not to stop and like just toying with him until, you know, I just didn't expect that they'd be in each other's company here and there. All over
that would have been like very like kind of Hitchcock if they did that. Like I can see something like old school doing that, like just two people in a car for like the whole movie, and like how just running into all these different obstacles where he might be trying to like ask for help, but he can't. I mean, of course, there is like a moment like that.
There is a moment like that at the construction site, which was really well done.
Yeah, and he just takes out that fucking blade, and you're like, "Yep, that's not gonna work."
That was convincing. So yeah, I wouldn't be saying anything with that switchblade up there either.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because I was reading one of the reviews, and I think it's the Global Mail mentioned this, and like I guess other websites that wrote pieces about the undertones of this movie, and I really never thought of it that way. But there's some interesting the Globe and Mail, the Globe and Mail. Jay Scott, he interpreted the film as a slasher movie about gay panic, and he called it a nasty piece of homophobic angst for the age of AIDS. He said that there are clear homophobic overtones between the two characters, and just in the way he interacts with them, and like he almost thinks that John Ryder is pursuing him and going after him, and like in his orbit, and more like he views it as more of like a almost like sexual flirtation on John Ryder's end. And I was like, I watched back other scenes, and like they point to the scene in like I think it's the diner, right, where he leaves him with the
finger.
What's finger, right? And then
the fries,
and then he's asking him like, you know, he's like, why are you doing this to me? And like he's like touching his face, he's like putting the like pennies on his eyes, but like that's one of the scenes that he referenced where it seems like there are more undertones there than like I didn't see it. I guess maybe you can interpret it that way because of like the body language and what he's doing, and he kind of just says to him like, you know, like, you're a smart guy, you can figure it out, but he's not really like threatening him, but like there were a couple of review pieces that said that the movie has that underneath the surface, and that's the cool thing about movies though, like anyone can interpret them any way they
I know. And I might next time I watch this, whatever that is, because I left this viewing with the feeling like I'm going to get this rewatch in the next year or two. I'm not going to put this on the shelf and not come after it again because I really enjoyed it. So I'll hopefully keep that in mind for next time. I didn't notice anything like that. If anything, and I'm not as fresh with this watch. I watched it a couple weeks ago, so I'm kind of walking myself through what I remember. My interpretation, though, of John Ryder and his conflict with what was Jim Halsey with C. Thomas Howell's character, was that he was like almost like a barrier to like Jim Halsey becoming a man in a way, where he's confronting his I get like undertones of like maybe questionable masculinity and like the evolution from boyhood to manhood, where like Jim Halsey's a pretty innocent, happy-go-lucky, naive boy, we'll say, at the time that the movie starts, and then he picks up the Hitcher, and from then on he's constantly challenged and made to deal with this, you know, unrelenting force. And at the end of it, he takes control. I mean, I won't maybe spoil the ending until later in the episode, but we know, you and I know what he ends up doing to overcome that threat. And at the end of it, he's not the same person that he was when he started it. So I kind of looked at it like an analogy for that. It's a very typical hero's journey, I would say. But as far as that, the gay undertones. I didn't really pick up on any of those, but that's not to say that I don't want to discredit whoever Siri that was. There's another 1986 movie where I think there's lots of that in Top Gun, but
no, there is a lot of that in Top Gun.
Yeah, but no, I didn't notice
like
any in
way
this.
a ton of it.
Yeah, I loved Rutger Hauer. I had only seen him in Blade Runner, of course, and like that is just a performance of a lifetime. But I equally liked him as the Hitcher. I like that he got more screen time, more to say, and like really solidified how great Rutger Hauer was as an actor. Are there any other movies actually you can think of off the top of your head to check out of his? Because I really don't. Not that familiar with his filmography.
Not as a lead, and I feel bad I don't have any. But he is in Batman Begins. He has like a part in that. It's like a huge.
He's in Batman Begins.
Yeah. He has that whole exchange with Morgan Freeman, and then Morgan Freeman like there's a callback to like, oh, like didn't you get the memo? Like kind of thing. He works for Ray Enterprises. Yeah.
Okay, I know exactly. That's Rutger Hauer. Oh my god.
Yeah, he has a role. He has a role in Sin City. Which
I've seen recently.
I think he's like the priest that gets his head like taken off in one of the stories.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but like I don't know why I can't think of one like as a lead. But yeah, has been in a lot of stuff though.
Yeah, he was I love C. Thomas Howell in this movie, but Rutger Hauer stole the show. He was just so intimidating, naturally great leading man. I know he's kind of a supporting figure in this movie, but he just commands such a presence. He was great. And his voice is just so, I don't even know how to put it, but he has a great voice.
It's interesting because he's so like Rutger Hauer is eerily calm. In like a lot in most of the movie, right? This isn't a frothing at the mouth kind of villain, serial killer, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There is like, and I think that's what makes the character so creepy and effective.
Like ethereal.
He is very much in control, and that's what makes him creepy and makes him a great villain. And then the idea, like it's the cat and mouse game that they kind of go through in this, where Jim feels like he could be out of the situation and he's back in. It's like when he pushes him out the car after they have this whole exchange about like he has like the knife to like his eye, and basically is like say 4 words, I want to die. He keeps telling that keeps asking him to say it, and then Jim basically musters up the strength to like say I don't want to die, and he pushes him out the car. Mm-hmm. And that should be it. Like you would think like, oh, I'm not gonna run into this guy again. And I just love that in that the next moment that he sees them, there's that family in the other car, and then he's in the back seat with the kid. And and that scene is so well done. And like another example of like a scene that is so well done in this and not as effective in the remake. And I don't know if it's because like you already know how the scene's going to play out, or because the remake kind of holds its like punches back about the implications of how like deadly that scene becomes. Like even though we don't see what he did to that family, I mean, it's the aftermath of like him fighting in the car, and then like the blood just kind of dripping out of the all that out of the car and stuff. Like it's pretty well done, and I just love that Jim is trying to get their attention, like hey, there's like a weirdo in your back seat, like trying to help, and the fact that like John is so confident that he's not gonna be able to. He knows he won't be able to convince that family to pull over or do anything. There's nothing he can do. And like in the way he's like laughing and goofing off with the kid in the back and like pretending to shoot and like just so like good. Like I mean, like it's so creepy and effective. But yeah. I just love that he is always in control until like you're right. Like Jim has to become almost like him in a way to overcome him.
Yeah.
It's basically like he has to like basically think like he thinks in order to defeat him. And I mean, I guess that has a lot to say about like I think more about manhood and masculinity and like taking initiative rather than kind of like a homoerotic subtext. But I mean, I'm looking at it right now. A lot of people have written it that way. A lot of people think there are a ton of homosexual undertones in the movie.
That is interesting. What was I about to say? What did you think about? Have you heard the interpretation that John Ryder is like a spirit or like a paranormal like force, in the sense that he's able to just kind of appear whenever at his own whim and kind of overpower so many people, even like remain unscathed, and he's more than a man. I really like that. I know that the writer Eric Red has like denied that that's what he was going for with that character, but I do think there's a solid argument to be made, and just how
Yeah.
and when, particularly, we see John Ryder appear from out of thin air, and he's able to just like overwhelm all these forces that are he's up against like relatively easily. I just think that it was a pretty cool
Yeah.
interpretation of his character, and I think I like to choose to buy into it just because I think that's more interesting than a nobody in a sense that is just overpowered and is able to appear at all the right moments. Just I think I buy into the more that he's sort of like this otherworldly force that is like Jim Halsey is just
Well,
meant to confront. I like that a lot more.
he's certainly, I mean, like there's stuff that he's able to do, and the way he's able to like uh appear and reappear, and like that whole scene where Jim's in the back seat with the cops, and like he's taking these two cops hostage because he wants someone to like to listen to him, like, hey, this guy is the one doing this, because like on the road to like getting rid of the Hitcher when you think out of his car when he pushes him out, like there's this kind of like like road of like bodies, and like he's leaving in his wake, like all this stuff, right? And eventually, since they think it's Jim that's doing it, because like John Ryder has been successful at like doing this stuff, and like you said, almost like appearing and reappearing out of whim.
Mm-hmm.
So it does feel like, I mean, like that scene with the cops, like he feels like he does come out of nowhere and the other car and just like starts blasting it with his gun. Like there's no build up to him being like on the road with them, like side by side.
Yeah,
I do
just
kind of
there.
like he's just there, and like they don't really explain it. So I kind of like that idea of like that he could be something more, because that makes more sense to me, other than like, again, I don't want, like we mentioned in our last movie or the other movie we watched, like, or the movie's just gonna movie and like he just has to appear there because the plot.
Right. But this seems to suggest or flirt with the idea that maybe there's more to this character, and very subtly, and I think it's more of just like the way it's interpreted more than like objectively hinted at in the context of the movie. But I don't know, I really buy that. I didn't think about this while I was watching it. It was just like more like analysis videos afterwards. I was like, yeah, I like that idea. And it's up to you to interpret however you'd like.
Yeah.
But needless to say, Rutger Hauer, my favorite part of this movie, his performance was incredible. He was amazing, and it was just it. Yeah.
No, I want to say what I was thinking about it, like because we were talking about Rutger Hauer. What did you? I've always been torn about this. I think he has some solid moments, and then there's moments where I'm like, oh, I don't know how that really played out. What did you think of C. Thomas Howell in the? Like, did you think he was like really good, or are there moments where you're like, oh, like not as good as say his co-star, or maybe there's like I thought like, so okay, I saw moments like I felt like he was overacting, but like he's not like horrible in it. It's not horrible in it, but
I'll put it this way. He's definitely outshone by Rutger Hauer. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's a rookie versus the vet. Not maybe a rookie. I don't really know what C. Thomas Howell's career had been like by the mid 80s, but in my eyes anyway, he's definitely the junior actor of the two. So he's not going to hold a candle to Rutger Hauer. I liked his performance, but he didn't, whereas I don't think anybody else would have been able to do what Rutger Hauer did with that character that he did. I do think you could have put like Emilio Estevez or Tom Cruise in this role and it be just as good, if not even maybe better. It's not one of those performances where nobody else could have done it. Although I think he did it well. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'd have to, again, like I'm a couple of weeks off this watch, so like maybe if it was a little bit more recent, I might be able to like think of some examples of his overacting, but nothing really stood out to me. I enjoyed his performance. I did really like his chemistry with Jennifer Jason Leigh, who I did not know was in this movie, and I had never even seen Jennifer Jason Leigh like pre 2010s.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yeah, really surprised me. She was just great. I've always liked her as an actress, and a few things I've seen her in. She was great in this. I thought she was gorgeous. Like I was like, just not who I expected. I've only seen like adult, older Jennifer Jason Leigh, so this was quite shocking. But she was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny that she plays kind of like a innocent, nice person in this. She also has. She's been known to play crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen it's an early '90s movie. Have you ever seen Single White Female?
Heard of it, but haven't seen it.
But she is bonkers awful. Like there was like a period. There was a period in the early '90s, and like you can actually like look all this stuff up. But like in the early '90s, for some reason, the like kind of like early '90s thriller was like a huge thing, especially like always involving like a certain type of like usually mostly like a white ensemble, like putting like a white family in danger, and this outside threat comes in, and like that was like you had single white female, like unlawful entry, Pacific Heights, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. There was like a lot of them that like came out in the early 90s, and she was in single white female, and she is so good in that. I mean, that's one of the movies I remember her the most. I do remember her in this, and that's a pretty underwritten role, but she does what she can with it. It's not like, she's not one of the leads at all in The Hitcher, but like it works. Like I actually like that he finds someone that like buys his story, because he needs someone to kind of have his back. And now it ends up horrible for her.
I know. I did find it underwhelming. I love the lead up to the scenario that she's put in, but I gotta say, with all the other violence and action that we are treated to in this movie, to just have the screen go to black on her character's death, I thought was cheap. I get, probably would have been hard to pull off in the 80s, and this movie already kind of pushes boundaries. So there's probably not a lot of wiggle room in terms of, having the only female character cut in half, but
then you might like this aspect of the remake more, because like I think I told you, since it's a gender flipped movie, Sophia Bush is taking on the role of like C. Thomas Howell plays, and then I forget the guy who plays the Jennifer Jason Leigh role, but there's a guy in the remake. Same scenario happens to him, but they actually show it. They show him getting ripped in half. As for people that don't know, she is what's a tie between like these two like trucks, right? Basically,
like a truck, and I think it's trailer.
And like he's like gradually putting like his foot on and off the gas, like indicating that like should he want to, he could very well rip her in half, like how she's and. I'm torn about this, because having seen when I first saw it, like I said, I saw the original because like the remake was coming out at the time, so that's when I first saw it, and I'm torn about what works better. If it's the implication that like, oh, we know what will happen if he does that, it is going to rip her in half. Like, do I need to see it? And then when I saw in the remake, and they definitely show the guy get ripped in half, I was like, it was cool from a gore perspective. But I was like, but do I need to see it, or just like the whole like idea of like Halloween Jaws, like is it basically like what you don't see is more effective? I don't know how I feel. I kind of like I knew you were gonna be like, oh, I wish it would have shown her get like,
I wish they would have shown or like something like maybe like a character's reaction to it happening, like anything. It's just we don't get anything. Like we're left to assume, and I get like I'm not expecting a close up of a prosthetic body getting torn in two, but like something to indicate that and he actually goes through with it. I know we know from the next scene, but I just felt a little bit robbed. It wasn't a big deal though. Like I didn't see that coming. I was actually very what's the word I'm looking for here. I applauded the movie for taking that risk with her character and actually killing her off. I did not expect that.
I think, like, I hate to say it this way, but killing a woman like that in a movie like this, I think probably is, I mean, because like a lot of critics who did like the movie hate how violent it is and how like they think it's a nasty movie, and not just nasty like gory, but like it's a very like kind of angry movie as far as like that. And I was surprised when I first, because I'm so glad that even though I knew what the movie was, no one had, like when I first saw it, no one had told me about that scene going into it. So I was completely shocked that like that's where she ends up and that's what happens to her. Again, like I was like, it was my imagination, I imagine what it's like to get ripped in half. So I was like, all right, I know what's gonna happen to her there. Like, but I thought that was pretty bold to have it happen to a female character like that in the movie like that, because that's a violent way to go. And I think it's kind of showed that like the writer and director is like wasn't gonna pull any punches. I mean, of course they didn't show it, but like as far as like what could happen to characters. Now it's funny, because I'm going back to that subtext that other people seem to notice. That's one of the reasons they give as why they think there's homosexual subtext in the movie, because they said that they don't understand why John lets Jim live as long as he does, because he keeps toying and messing with him. And then this guy wrote a whole thing right now, I'm just reading, that he takes like the one female character away from him, knowing that he like likes her and that he wants to just like get her out of the way. And I was like, I mean, again, people can interpret movies like the way they want to, but they think that that is where some of the more undertones are coming from. Like,
I get that
almost like a jealousy kind of thing. Like, and then and then he does keep Jim alive compared to like the other people he's claimed to like, that we know that he's killed, that he's described killing. He seems to be toying with Jim a lot longer, I guess. I mean, I guess there is a lot there. I don't even know if it is necessarily that you can interpret it that way, but it is interesting to like kind of wonder like why he is kind of like extending this kind of push and pull cat and mouse game with him. Like as a character. Like I mean, I guess you can kind of like debate it on your own. Like, why is he doing it? Maybe it's fun for him to like do it, or maybe he can see how weak he is, and that's why he's doing it.
Right.
There's like that's the cool thing about the movie though. There are a lot of interesting like theories you can kind of go down as far as to why he doesn't just immediately kill him, and instead of like, especially after he gets pushed out the car, like this is someone that's like standing up to him, like and then like
I get like a Joker and Batman dynamic between them, where like here's this guy that's so used and probably bored of killing and just doing the same old thing for God knows how long, and here comes this guy.
It's been so easy before, like
exactly. Here's someone that's kind of putting up a fight that he might not have expected it from that person, who's a little bit weaker, but is kind of showing some might, and he is like doesn't want that fight to be over yet. I think that's why he doesn't get rid of him right away, and I really I thought their dynamic was great. I kind of got the sense that John Ryder's like kind of like elects Jim to be the guy that puts an end to him in a way, and like he just keeps giving him the chance to keep coming after him.
Oh, that's an interesting theory that like maybe he's just bored or done with doing what he's doing, and like it wants an out. Wants like
and that's Jim.
Out. Yeah, of all people, right? Because he doesn't seem like he would be the guy.
Right.
But it might be in that moment where he pushes him out the car that he realizes that he could be that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is kind of like, he goes, okay, there's a little bit of fight in this kid.
Anyone else in that situation with a fucking blade that close to their eyeball would have just been like, just said what they need to say. Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, supposedly Rutger Hauer had improvised that placement of the knife, like that whole that scene, that line, and that stuff. So like, C. Thomas Howell's reaction is genuine.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, so that's perfect.
Pretty cool. Same with with Nash's death. That was also Rutger Hauer's doing, I guess.
Oh really?
With tying her up in between the trucks, which I thought was really.
Would that be weird if you're an actor and you're like, how'd you come up with that? That's weird.
Yeah. There's already a death scene scripted for this girl, but he's sitting there with the director like, what if he did it this way?
I want to tie her between two trucks and rip her in half. And then the three people up for the Jim Halsey part, they wanted Matthew Modine, Tom Cruise, or Emilio Estevez, who were all also big at that time in the 80s as well. This would have been around Top Gun time for Tom Cruise, so that I guess
same year, right?
Yeah, so I guess he would have not done it. It's funny, guys. Matthew Modine and Tom Cruise they used to vie for the same roles a lot early in Tom Cruise's career, like around Risky Business and all that. Matthew Modine and him were always up for the same roles.
Neat.
Oddly enough,
Tom Cruise definitely won those battles, because I know Matthew Modine, but definitely not as an illustrious career as Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, Emilio Estevez, C. Thomas Howell, and Tom Cruise are all in The Outsiders together, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and kind of like Brat Pack adjacent. I know they weren't really like in the Brat Pack, but like
they had their own thing going on though, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then Jennifer Jason Leigh was in the movie with Rutger Hauer before this called Flesh and Blood, and that's why she really wanted to do this, so she can work with him again.
Just the year prior, right?
The year prior, yeah. And I get why they picked C. Thomas Howell, because even if I think there are moments of overacting, there is like he has a face that like it just looks like boyish innocence. Like I think you need like that for that part.
Material, I think.
Yeah, I think you need that for that part, because like you said, there is a character growth like as the movie goes on. And 97-minute movie where you have to believe that progression from where we meet Jim. Just kind of idealistic. I'm dropping this car off, and like I'm so naive. I'm just gonna pick this guy up. He even mentions like how he's not really supposed to do something like that, or like it implies that it's dangerous to pick up strangers on the side of the road. But you had to buy the character growth, and I do buy it overall. Like by the time he gets to where he needs to get to like really get rid of him, like that is, I believe it, and that I think that has a lot to do with like just C. Thomas Howell as a personality, the way he looks. He has to sell that both parts of that performance, and he does, I think, for the most part.
Absolutely.
And also, you need like a little bit of that yin and yang. If you're going to have someone like Rutger Hauer, who is like clearly in the power position, like he has the more like flashy role of the two. So you need someone who's not going to be like that. They're like the polar opposite. And C. Thomas Howell definitely is in that duo. So I think that helps that they are just both so different in a sense.
Absolutely.
Did you kind
have
of
you ever
were
seen?
you instantly? Did you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you beat me to it. I'll ask you in a minute.
No, I was gonna ask you. Did you like? Because we were talking about in the other movie where stuff happens where it's like, oh, how that happened, or like, oh, I don't buy it. These characters getting in this situation. Like, were there any moments where you rolled your eyes when Jim would there'd be another time where like the Hitcher would catch up to him or something would happen where like no one seems to really believe him or like whatever it is that whatever the movie needs to like move its stuff forward and kind of keep John around, like where you kind of like, oh, like I don't know if I buy that, or you're like, all right, well I'll accept it.
So yes, one that sticks out immediately, and I don't want to say I rolled my eyes because I was here for it. I was enjoying the movie, so I was taking all these logical liberties as they came because whatever, I was having a blast while I was watching this. But the scene where it just seems like Jim and Nash are bound to get caught by the cops. They're leading that big freeway chase and the helicopters over them. And you're like, okay, they're going to run out of gas. Or they're going to get a tire pop. They're not getting out of this. And then out comes John Ryder from like the dunes on the side of the highway and a pistol. Exactly. And he literally shoots down the helicopter with the pistol. And then it like takes out the two cop cars. Oh my God. I was like, this is so awesome. Because I did not expect an action movie out of this movie, and it like totally was. There was definitely
especially with a budget like that, like limited kind of budget, $7.9 million budget, and like there's some set pieces, 7.9, and there's some set pieces in here that are like clearly like action set pieces. They're not just like standard like horror movie stuff, like thriller stuff. Like they're some legit.
Like they definitely they blow up a gas station, like legit. The stunt driving, which I guess Rutger Hauer did a lot of his own stunt driving, which is really quite impressive. Probably helped keep that budget down. Like they destroy some of those cars. That's that stunt where you already mentioned the scene earlier where C. Thomas Howell, after he knocks out John Ryder from his car, and then he catches up to him and he's in the car with the family, and then C. Thomas Howell like pulls up next to them and they're sideways on the highway, and then a transport truck is coming and he just misses it and it clips his car. I'm like, how did you pull that off?
Do that,
Oh, that was nail biting. That was great. And then obviously all the police car stunt driving and all the cars that get wrecked, the helicopter, like that is expensive work. Like I don't know how they kept that budget down. I did not know it was that low. That is even more impressive.
Yeah, I will say. I agree with that. The scene, it's a cool moment. I mean, he does shoot down. I mean,
it's badass with
the pistol. That scene is redone in the remake, and it's a bigger guns involved. So I guess you can buy it. It's a bit more. It's the only cool scene in the remake because it's all about song choice. They use it's played over Closer by 9 Inch Nails, and and they build up the song to gradually go on with the scene. And it's a really well done moment in the movie. I mean,
I might gotta YouTube that.
It's a very fleeting moment in like a 80-some minute movie, but it's fun, and you get to see Sophia Bush like brandish a shotgun at one point, like in jean shorts and things. Yeah,
that sounds very.
Very. Oh yeah, she's very much has like, she comes from like the Jessica Biel like Texas Chainsaw Massacre line of horror movie actions from that time. But that scene is really cool. But that was the first thing I thought. I remember when the first time I saw this movie, I was like, can you shoot down a helicopter? Okay, whatever. With a pistol.
I got real lucky or be really
really cool shot. But like, okay, whatever. I'll go with it.
I got that scene indexed for once we wrap up this episode. I gotta watch that.
Yeah, it's the only fun scene in the movie. I mean, it's really well done, and it all comes down to music choice too. I was like, all right, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I feel like what that remake does, I know we keep bringing it up, but I think it's a good example. Like, this is such an effective movie on its own. Like, just the concept alone is creepy and effective. The remake tries to add so much like over stylized juju to that plot and just more little things to like enhance an idea that's already kind of creepy, and it didn't need to do that. Like this original movie is creepy on its own. Now, granted, I would never pick anyone up on the side of the road. I don't care what.
Fuck no.
I imagine even if I was born, if I was like of age driving in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, I wouldn't pick up anyone either. I think I've always, whenever I heard about the concept of hitchhiking and anyone willing to pick someone up, I always thought it was an inherently dumb thing to do. But then like there's those people that like, hey, maybe they're stranded, they need somewhere to go, like they need help, like gotta help my fellow man.
I sympathize with hitchhikers, no doubt, but I'm not taking that gamble. I'm sorry.
But yeah, but like the cool thing, like what the remake misses from that the original has is that character kind of cat and mouse between those two leads. Sophia Bush and Sean Bean don't really have that in the remake. There's not enough like interplay between the two of them to have it. And like and I think that's the interesting thing about the original. Like whatever subtext you think is there is still an interesting kind of like character dynamic between John Ryder and Jim, where that's what makes it interesting, and like that what makes and you buy what's kind of like the journey that you go on with these two. And I think that is what works best in this movie. And it's just so simple. It doesn't need all that extra like razzle that like all those like Platinum Dune horror movie remakes, whether you like them or not, like Texas Chainsaw, Amityville Horror, Hitcher, they all believe that you need to throw in a little bit more money and a little bit more like pizzazz to like make things like flashier, like because that's what the kids want to see, and actually dumb down like some of the better aspects of the original movie's plot, whereas like you're not trusting your audience to like really go on that journey of like, oh, this is a much better like character driven piece, and that's what makes the horror great in that original movie. And them not trusting their audience to go on that journey on a remake, like doing the same thing. That's why I think this one does best.
Why I don't care much for those Platinum Dune legacy remakes is because they don't rely so much on the pen where the movie begins and what makes a movie compelling, and they rely, I think, more on like the innovations of the time, like better effects, like computer effects and different trends, rather than what's going to make a compelling story. Although there's that's not to say that none of them are intriguing or improve upon some of the OGs, but in general, I mean, what makes this movie fantastic, it is just a really great hook. It comes down to a great pitch, and it doesn't try to be anything more than it is. I mean, is it a little bit of a rambunctious action movie? Yeah, but it's an hour and a half. It's pretty much the same movie that it's trying to be from the outset. It just gets a little bit, the stakes just get upped throughout, and it maintains a great pace. And like, what else can you ask for? And it had great effects, great performances. Like all those things come after we get that great pitch of the movie. And I really loved it. Another thing too that I wanted to highlight before we wrap up is like the cinematography.
It's shot so well.
Great. Yes. It really evokes like the Western genre. I want to consider it like a neo-Western in a way. Somewhere in between like a neo-Western and like a classic Western, like those shots of like the setting and the rising sun and the California desert and John Ryder getting up off the ground, like with the desert behind him. Oh, that was just some great shots.
Feel all the elements in the movie, like even at the start where it's like raining and like he's in the car and he's clearly been like wet from like being in the rain, and he has like all those close-ups of like his nose and like the like water kind of just dripping from his nose. Like you feel like every aspect of the film's like visuals in the movie, and I thought that was like one of the best things about it. Like you actually like it puts you in it pretty much. Like you feel every element of it. I thought that was one of the best things about it too. And I also, I mean, if you have any favorites, I do like it's not so much that, of course, like it's deadly. That's how that girl dies. Like she gets ripped in half. But I love like the moment in the car with them though, where he's just kind of like he's like it's this whole like tease of like, I'm gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it. And like I love that it gradually builds to that, and like, and you can't like Rutger Hauer is gonna do it, John Ryder is gonna do it, but you almost think like, is there any kind of convincing like that can happen for him to like not do it? And it just played wonderfully. It's a really well acted scene too. Like it's just like, and I have to disagree with I think we mentioned it when we talked about the reviews. Like actually, I looked it up. Gene Siegel didn't like the movie either. I thought he did, but they both said, like Roger Ebert said, that the film's arguing that the identification of the film's hero with the killer is hollow because the killer has no backstory or even a motive. Jim Siskel gave it 0 stars, calling it a nauseating thriller and a thinly veiled but more gruesome ripoff of Steven Spielberg's Duel. I've actually heard that comparison before as well.
That's what I was going to ask you earlier when we were both talking at the same time. I forgot about that, but yeah, it felt earlier in anticipation of the episode, I was like, this is Duel meets something else, and I can't remember what other movie it made me think.
Well, there's another movie called have you seen Joyride with Paul Walker and Steve Zahn?
I know exactly what you mean, but I haven't seen
That's actually pretty effective too. Like that setup is really cool. Like I think it's funny you have that. Wolf Creek, yeah, it actually has it's like the same, like this, almost the same visual style, and the whole like, also putting your trust in like the wrong people.
Yes.
More other, I guess. Is there a subgenre for horror for stranger danger?
There should be, and I feel like this fits very nicely into that subgenre.
But yeah, the New York Times criticized the film's lack of intensity and originality and wrote, Mr. Harmon, who directed it, making his feature debut, displays a much surer hand for action than for character, though some of the action footage here looks meaninglessly overblown. Variety called it a highly unimaginative slasher movie with a script that has many holes. I wouldn't even call this a slasher movie, but whatever.
I wouldn't really either.
The Washington Post said the script by Eric Red is laconic in a dull way, much Kane but hardly able. And Harmon and his cinematographer John Seal have shot the movie in such brown murk you can hardly make anything out. Don't agree with that. We just said the cinematography was pretty great in the movie. By the end, you're willing to forgive Ryder his worst if someone would just change the light bulb so you can see things more clearly. And then at the time, a rare positive review came from Newsweek, who called it an odyssey of horror and suspense that's as tightly wound as as tightly rounded as beautifully designed as a guillotine. And then Leonard Maltin, 2.5 out of 4 stars, his most frequently used rating for most horror movies. He criticized the film's violence as being genuinely grisly and unappealing, but he also noted that the film wasn't without interest and had good character moments. I don't understand I will never get it. Horror movies are violent. I saw someone online criticizing people for enjoying movies like Terrifier because they said you should question your own kind of sanity if you were willing to sit through stuff like that as a person. And I
cannot wait for Terrifier 3.
I know, me too. And my thing is just like that's what they are. Not all of them are like gore fest, right? And I don't right. And I honestly don't like a horror movie that is just gore, where like there's no story and there's just like a bunch of like limbs being thrown at the screen. I understand that, but this one has like I think it's a thriller first and foremost, and not.
Yes,
really,
I agree.
I don't really view it as like a slasher or horror movie at all. Like
I think it's an action thriller through and through.
It feels very much better than that. And I even Rutger Hauer, he said that critics at the time misunderstood the movie. And said that the film thankfully has since been acknowledged as a cult classic and one of his most iconic roles. He doesn't understand why they didn't get it at the time, but actually it said they took younger people years after the movie's release to get it reappraised as like a horror classic now.
Interesting.
Basically saying that all those old fogies back in the day got it wrong, and I think they did. I was under the impression when I first saw it, it had better reviews when it came out. Because like when I finally did see it for the first time and other people mentioned it, they mentioned it so favorably, like as it was like a kind of like a classic of its era. So I was really surprised that it definitely wasn't critically a classic of its era at the time.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see those Metascores or the Metascore and all the other reviews on it. Like I said, it kind of got me hesitant, but I was like, I've committed. I'm sitting down. I love what I see on paper. And then by the end of it, I was like, this is just so much better than time has made it out to seem. And I know that it's garnered more appeal over the years, which is nice. It would just be nice for those scores to be reflected that way. But let it be a sign and never just, judge a movie on its scores.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, one of the film's producers agrees with you. They said that one of the producers said the film's commercial failure was because of a lack of certain scenes not being as violent as they should be. They said they should have showed Nash's death. We would have made a few more $1 million. They said there's other gore in the movie, other killings, but this is the main one. It's the motivation for the hero. You can't show all the killings we showed and then not show the main one. It's cheating the audience.
Thank you.
I could go with that. It is what pushes him over the edge. So I guess that is true. But yeah, I mean, I agree. There's a train of thought where it's like, hey, I can just imagine what that would be, and that's enough. I don't know how I would feel about seeing a woman's like being ripped in half. I really have to like sit with that. Like in the remake, it's a dude, and I was like, and I only remember what actor played the part. I was like, it was just like, that sucks. And boy, is it graphic. I do remember that. I own it. I don't know why.
Which movie? Sorry.
And in the remake, when they do show the guy get ripped in half, it's pretty graphic. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would feel some kind of way if they showed her. I mean, that's a pretty grisly thing to do to a lady even in a horror movie. But I guess there's been other gory female horror movie deaths, so I shouldn't like think that, but that's a lot. And that scene is just a slow burn. Like you're like you know what's happening. It's gonna happen. You're just like But yeah, I think it's a good character-driven movie, and if anything, people should see it for Rutger Hauer's performance. It is truly
100%. That will be why I revisit it. Yeah.
If I didn't know better, Rutger Hauer is a serial killer who was a serial killer who like casually hitchhiked in between movie roles and did this for real. I don't know.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Now, I know what you gave the last movie, Creep, as a score. I don't know if you're ready to go there yet. If you have anything else you wanted to say about the movie in particular.
I think I got everything off my chest. I've been waiting to rate it, and I was curious to see. I know I always like when I'm bringing a first watch rating to something that you've already seen multiple times. I like to see how we compare. So if you want to take the honors of giving your score first, by all means.
Okay, I will go first. I mean, after this rewatch, I'm comfortable with a solid 4 out of 5.
Nice. I completely agree. That's we're 2 for 2.
Okay.
Same rating. Yeah.
It is interesting though, like that we threw that theory out there that like he could be, I know the movie doesn't say that, but that he could be something more than a man, because he kind of does, like he's almost like a force of nature rather than think of it like, because I remember like those little things will make me pick apart a movie, like, oh, like where the fuck did he come from? How is he getting from point A? How is he getting from point A to point B so quickly?
Right.
Like then I'm like, oh, I'm overthinking it. It's a horror movie. Don't overthink it. But like to think of it that way, like I think like this is like this like kind of like outside force that's bigger than anyone, and especially bigger than Jim. Almost like this like obstacle that is being put in his way to prove his manhood. Almost like to like, hey, like this like thing is obstacle is being like, you need to go through this so you can become a man. There's like there's like so many more I never really thought about while watching it before. That makes me comfortable giving it a 4 and not picking apart like, oh well, we didn't even hear the car coming, dude. How did he come from? Come on,
right?
And yeah, he's like Michael Myers, but like the personality.
It's exactly what I was thinking when I said that earlier. I just think of Michael kind of coming from out of nowhere, in a very similar way.
But yeah, I definitely what I would recommend. And if anything, watch a few scenes for the remake. You might enjoy Sophia Bush.
Perhaps I'm gonna watch this.
And honestly, Sean Bean, and Sean Bean is a good actor, right? It's like
Sean Bean's awesome.
I think it's a tough act to follow. Is like the hard thing about that part. Like they play the roles
really
differently.
Like that casting, yeah.
I think that, and I thought that was the best thing about the remake is that he was really great casting, and like, but they just take on the roles differently, and and because it's a female lead, the interactions are just different. Like you're missing like a big part of what makes the character stuff in the original work. Like they don't have the same kind of like yin and yang thing going on. Like, it's clear that they only viewed her being a woman in the movie as like, let's put a woman in danger, and then let her like kind of like, it's cool, have her moment where she can like she's a badass, she can take him down on her own. She don't need no man's help. I get what they're trying to do, but it's missing that whole like psychological layer to it,
right?
By switching out those roles.
Now, does it add anything in that place, or do you think that this is an element that's just missing from the remake?
It doesn't add anything. It's an element that's missing, and like honestly, I think they, this is like Michael Bay was over Platinum Dunes. I think the way that they viewed what they thought we wanted to see was to see a woman who is that attractive in peril, because like we feel more of like if a woman's in danger. But then they also give her like, the moment where she, finds her strength and she overpowers him. I think that part of it is cool. That's fine. But but Michael Bay and everyone he involves with, they think like fucking 16-year-old boys, and like that. And that's how they treated. That's how they treated that role, and that's how they treated the movie.
No nuance.
If you ever watch any behind the scenes, like if you like Texas Chainsaw, Amityville Horror, all the movies they remade, they seem to think they know what we want. And you can, and if you're watching that, you're just like, you have no idea how like off base you are. Like same thing when they remade Nightmare on Elm Street. Like they thought they know what we wanted. Like when they remade Friday the 13th, they thought they knew what we wanted, and they were wrong. The only time I won't say they were wrong, I like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake more than you did, but And the Amityville Horror one has some moments, but like for the most part, they've been wrong. They really do think like this is what the boys want to see. And it's like you're dumbing these things down to like the lowest common denominator and taking every bit of like nuance out of like what made those original stories work. And maybe one day we will reevaluate, not even reevaluate, but look at those Platinum Dunes movies and like, or even talk about remakes like that, and try to figure out why they think they need to change all those things, like assuming what the audience wants. Like, I mean, you have focus groups and shit like that for a reason, to know that like everyone doesn't want that. Like, you know, like, and I think that's why they made less money with each one that came out. With each of those remakes that came out, they made less money because it was like, no, you got it right maybe the first time, but not after that.
Mm-hmm. Some lessons got to be learned the hard way, and I'm glad that, as far as I know anyway, Michael Bay doesn't have really his finger in the horror pie much these days. I could be wrong about that, but I think he's more of an action auteur.
Now Blumhouse, I think they're the new Michael Bay of the horror production.
But they're a little bit more consistent, if you ask me. But definitely,
yeah. Alrighty. Well, we agreed on both scores, both movies that we reviewed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The 3.5 for Creep and the 4-star review for The Hitcher. Definitely check out.
So awesome.
Definitely check them out. It's so well done and short and sweet. It's not too long. And I'm glad that it definitely found an audience like later in life, because it definitely deserves it. And again, fine Rutger Hauer performance. I need to explore more of his movies where he plays a lead. That made me feel bad that I even could remember.
Some homework we can do.
I know for sure. I guess this is episode 198. Is that what we're?
I think this is 199.
Yeah. Oh shit. Oh, either way, we're almost at 200. And so very close. We have a lot that it's cool. It's not really a lot that we're doing for 200. It's a very simple thing that we're doing, but kind of it's worked out before when we kind of do the whole like either it's been a while since I've seen this, it's been a while since you've seen that, or doing something where we both haven't seen it or one of the movies in question, and we're doing that for episode 200. I still need to watch the movie that Jackson recommended, and he still needs to watch the one I recommended. JC and I were wondering if you're going to like it. He thinks you're going to like it because it does get pretty. It gets pretty sick. It's a serial killer thriller, but a very unique serial killer thriller movie. Like, don't be turned off that it stars Jennifer Lopez. This was like early in her career, like before she became like Jennifer Lopez. So it's actually like it came out I think a year after Out of Sight. So it was still like when she was still putting out decent movies. And Vincent D'Onofrio is in it, and Vince Vaughn, like another rare like dramatic performance from Vince Vaughn. It's pretty good.
Never lets me down.
Hopefully you enjoy it. I glanced at your letterbox, I think last week, and it's weird because I know that you rated The Hitcher and Creep, but I forgot what you had given those until we started about it now. But I did see what you gave Coherence, and I that made me excited.
Don't be intimidated or like don't go in thinking you like it as much as me. Like, I just remember being so impressed with that movie.
I don't even know if you reviewed it or not. If you wrote a review, I saw your score and I didn't click on it beyond that.
I did on my first watch of Coherence a few months ago, and then on my rewatch, I just scored it again.
Okay, so I didn't even know if you did or not. I didn't go beyond that because I was like, I don't want it to like not to completely skew how I might feel about it. But
go in blind.
I saw the perfect score rating. I was like, whoa, is that good? So
I was told by a good buddy of mine that also is really into film that I was crazy for giving it a 5, and we didn't really have much of a follow-up conversation. But I showed Cam it on this rewatch, the score that you just were seeing on my letterbox. And he was quite impressed with it too. So I was really glad. And it was shown to me by a buddy that like likes movies too. He moved out west, but we still keep in touch quite a bit, and we'll watch stuff together. And he actually suggested Coherence to me. And that was probably the best suggestion I ever got from him. But I cannot wait for that conversation when it comes down to it. And I got to watch The Cell. So I'm looking forward to that too. And then we'll have some stuff for the audience to throw in there too on that episode. Hopefully we'll get that in this weekend, but regardless, it's imminent.
Yeah. We're going to start
Quite
sending
a
out
milestone.
questions for you guys too, that we're going to share on the show. Like if you guys have any questions for us, we'll share them as well. I thought there won't be like a ton of like announcements or anything like that. We're just very happy that it's 200 episodes, and most of the changes for the show that we wanted to implement we already did, and then and then ones that we haven't yet we'll be doing more of once Jackson's schedule clears up. And but most of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the year we had already started doing and consistently. So
Now,
good.
There are a lot of those segments we haven't been able to do because of my schedule and whatnot. Like we still have, and I've not forgotten about it, but we got to do your director's trademark episode for your pick. So yeah. So again, I think the new year will be a good time. It's going to be around the time that I'm done here, and we'll be able to hit the ground running in the new year and continue. And who knows, there might be a couple other changes that we like explore before the new year. But I think in general, the show will remain in this a very similar format. Put out some reels, some short video content, short form content. It's going to be an exciting 2025 though. But I don't know about you, but 200 just crept out of nowhere. It's been crazy. I remember we were celebrating 100 last year.
Yeah, it definitely did. And I all my friends are very proud that even though you know, like we talked about this before, like there are certain friends that I think we both have. They support it. They don't necessarily listen to it because it's not their thing. Like I have friends who like don't love movies like that, but they follow it. And they, you know, if you follow it, it counts as like a score for us. So cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything like that. But like there are other friends who really do listen to it, and they are just like, you know, they know how rough it was along the way, like getting there. And they're just happy that I kept it going and then found someone to keep it going with. And they're like 200 episodes plus how many episodes you've done of your spinoff. Oh, that's a lot.
Like this is a lot more than 200.
100, yeah.
We've got episodes out there that aren't like in the official episode count.
Yeah, they were like special episodes that we didn't
exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a lot, but we're very proud of it, and we're looking forward to everything that's coming up. And hopefully we'll get Jackson on another Tales of Horror one in October if he has time. Got a whole month of spooky season coming up.
It's the best month of the year.
Yeah, and in the meantime, there's a lot more. I'm doing Idle Hands later today. I'm doing The Prowler tomorrow with someone.
Okay.
And then like there's and then already I recorded Stir of Echoes, Halloween Kills, Halloween 3. That'll be out this week. There's a lot. Like I said, I said yes to everyone. And I was like, oh, I should. Oh, The Fog are doing that with the Films and Fermentation podcast.
I know you love that movie too.
Yeah. So I'm excited to do that. So yeah, a lot more coming up that you'll all be able to hear. Whether you want to do it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Good Pods, those are great. But you should also try to get the Playlist Studio app because they are our podcast network and they treat us very well. You can get it in the iOS store or the Google Play Store, whatever you prefer. If you need to also see our handsome mugs, you can see them on YouTube if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is going to be more stuff's going to be added to that too, and that's one of the things that we're going to add more reels and stuff to as well once Jackson's schedule clears up a bit more, because it takes a lot of work to do that, and those are like little things that we can do once we actually both have more free time. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to it so you can see all those changes when they happen. And thank you. I'm glad I got to do 2 with you today. It's been weird. Mondays not doing it with you on a regular basis, but don't miss a step. It's like riding the bike. So perfect.
Exactly. Thanks for all your hard work in my absence. It's been great to be back, and it was a productive day. So best of luck with your next episode, and look forward to. We'll be in touch. You'll know when I know and whatever movie we're planning on covering together later. So we'll be in touch. And for everyone that was listening, thanks for sticking it out again for these last 2 episodes, and looking forward to being on again.